Hello there, welcome to Christopher's Weekly History Topic Videos. This is for week 19, the week of May 12th to the 18th. I know that I'm a few days late, I don't know worth a lot of stuff. Finals have been crazy, and also my personal life has been crazy. So I'm just going to do this real quick. This week I'm going over the Andrew Johnson administration. I'm just going to go over the key factors of the Johnson administration, the Andrew Johnson. I know last week I did the LBJ administration, the Lyndon Baines Johnson administration. This is the Andrew Johnson administration from 1865 to 1869. How the Johnson administration gets started, it really gets started in 1864, believe it or not. In the 1864 election, Lincoln is looking to get rid of some bipartisanship, and he chooses a Southern Democrat from Tennessee. Now Johnson, when his state of Tennessee, when he was a senator, he was the only senator to not give up his Senate seat and kept his Senate seat throughout the whole entire Civil War, even though his state is seceded from the Union. He was like a pro-union Democrat, and Lincoln admired this. And he picked him as his running mate, basically. Although the only problem was Lincoln's assassination. Lincoln was assassinated, as you know, Good Friday of 1865. Sorry, my nose is itchy. Anyway, on top of Abraham Lincoln's assassination, there were two other assassins. The other two assassins were supposed to kill the Secretary of State, I think, and Vice President Andrew Johnson. For some reason, the guy who was supposed to kill Johnson got nervous, and he got scared, and instead of going to kill Johnson, he just went to a bar and drank himself to, sleep. Although, as you know, John Wilkes Booth is successful in assassinating Lincoln, and then Johnson takes the oath of office and becomes the 17th President of the United States. Now, under Johnson, it's kind of complicated under Johnson. Even though Lincoln's a Republican, Johnson is a Democrat. He is a hardcore Democrat. He does not like the radical Republicans in Congress that were elected in 1864. He really doesn't like them. And he doesn't like two groups, in fact. It's the radical Republicans, but something he can't stand even more than the radical Republicans is the Southern aristocracy. Most of his Reconstruction plan was actually to put down the Southern aristocracy. Johnson and his 10% plan, 10% Reconstruction plan, is that if only 10% of a state's population of a former Confederate state said, we're sorry, it was wrong, we abolished slavery, and, it was wrong for us to go against the Union, that state would be automatically in if only 10% of its population had to say, we're sorry, we'll do better, we'll go back into the Union and you have our loyalty, basically. The only factor in Johnson's Reconstruction plan is that even though he only wanted 10%, the radical Republicans actually wanted 50% of the state's population to, do grievances, but Johnson only wanted 10%. The only difference with his 10% is that he specifically asked the Southern plantation class to actually go to him personally and say, we're sorry, we should have never done this, to go up to Andrew Johnson personally and be like, Johnson, we're sorry we did this, we'll never do it again. And this really this is more of Johnson's personal issue than, helping out the Reconstruction cause. Um, Johnson, when he was in Tennessee, he he was like a middle class or low class um, Southerner, and of course in the South, Southern plantation owners were the high class, high snobs basically, and Johnson thought that those type of people really looked down on like the little people, and since he was from nothing to something, he looked at it as the food chain basically being reversed. Now you're all powerful plantation owner that was at the height of its prime and now down has to go to President Johnson and be like, Johnson, we're sorry, we'll never do this again. We love the Union, we love that you're president, and everything will be fine. They actually had to either write a letter or go to Johnson in person and apologize. Um, Congress did not like this idea. The radical Republicans did not like Johnson's 10% plan. Congress, especially the radical Republicans in Congress, they put forth a 50% Reconstruction plan in which 50% of an entire former Confederate States population has to do grievances to Congress and basically be like, basically do the same thing that Johnson wanted to do, except they wanted more. They wanted an additional 40% more. Johnson only wanted 10%, and Johnson mainly wanted it from the upper class plantation owners, who he disliked. Congress, though, did not want it that way. They didn't want that. They were like, hey, it wasn't just the southern plantation owners, it was also the lonely southern soldier as well, who tried to get at us. So they were like, no, we don't want 10%. We need 50% of a state's population and nothing less before it is readmitted into the Union as a state. This mainly clashed both Johnson and the radical Republicans in Congress. What really happens is also another problem is the 1866 congressional midterm elections. As you know, in off years that there's not a presidential election, there's a congressional election, and there's an 1866 congressional election. What Johnson does is he does the most stupidest thing ever, as far as I am concerned. He does this round the circle tour in the nation, trying to boost Democratic congressmen and senators to get elected or re-elected into Congress. This, however, fails. It is a complete failure. In fact, the Democrats even lost more seats, had less seats more than they did pre-1866 congressional election. And they basically looked at Johnson as, hey, you know what? We're blaming you for it with your round the circle tour, because if you didn't do that, then we would have been elected. In fact, some congressmen and senators actually tried to keep Johnson away from them because they were like, yeah, you know what, we don't want you because if I have you supporting me, then I won't get reelected and a radical Republican will go into Congress. And they didn't really like that at all. So basically, Johnson's round the circle plan basically failed, to be quite honest, and more radical Republicans got into Congress. Now, Johnson is basically the first president to get impeached. Well, not the first, but the only president to get impeached. What happens is how the radical Republicans, they actually wanted him impeached before he made his mistake, but according to the Constitution, you can't really impeach a president just because you don't like him. You really have to have, some cause as to why you want to impeach him. And in the 1800s, there was this Tenure Act for administration officials in the administration. what happened is um, Secretary of War Edward Stanton um, was in Lincoln's cabinet from 1861 to 1865, and when Lincoln got reelected in 1864, he kept Stanton on as his cabinet. Now, when Lincoln died, the members of Lincoln's cabinet are now part of the Johnson cabinet, and Johnson particularly doesn't like some of the members of the cabinet, especially Secretary of War Edward Stanton, and um, he tries to go around the Tenure of Office Act and basically wants to say, Stanton, you're out. I'm going to replace you with one of my cronies, with a Democrat. Congress does not like this, and they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, hold it. You can't do this. We can't. You can't do this. You can't do it." And basically like that. Um, and bingo, they got a reason to impeach Johnson. Um, basically, the impeachment was actually so popular. Tickets were actually sold to the Johnson impeachment, so crowds could watch the trial of him getting impeached. And that's how sad it was. So anyway, that's basically the basics of Andrew Johnson, and that's it.